From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Supporters of a second Brexit referendum are celebrating Theresa May's defeat in Parliament. Hundreds of people gathered outside the British Parliament to follow the vote, carrying UK and EU flags. They cheered and celebrated the outcome. They said that the people need to vote on Brexit again. Members of Parliament rejected May's withdrawal agreement with the European Union by 432 votes to 202.
She lost by a huge number, far more than was predicted, and if she had got any sense whatsoever, then she would have not gone through that palaver. She would have just said, I will revoke Article 50. But she wouldn't. She's only interested in her own future and the Conservative Party.
It was a resounding victory. We're very glad that the deal was voted down. Personally, I would have preferred the Parliament to have taken back control and have revoked Article 50, but I'm very happy. This is a first step. We need to have a people's vote. There needs to be a choice on the ballot paper between remain in the EU and Theresa May's deal.
And Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has also urged for a second referendum. Sturgeon's comments came at the same time European Union leaders expressed regret. Scotland voted to remain in the EU.
This is a defeat of literally historic proportions for the Prime Minister, and she has seen it coming for months and has just wasted time. We can't waste time any longer. First of all, I believe now is the time to stop the Article 50 clop, to take away any risk of the UK crashing out of the EU without a deal on the 29th of March. And secondly, legislation should be brought forward to take this issue back to the electorate. Parliament has had 2.5 years, and the government and Parliament has failed to deliver a coherent, workable Brexit deal. It's time to put this back to the people in another referendum.
The Prime Minister's defeat in Parliament is being described as the biggest ever suffered by a government in British history. The vote saw Brexit supporting Conservatives joining with the opposition parties. After the result, May acknowledged her setback.
It is clear that the House does not support this deal, but tonight's vote tells us nothing about what it does support. Nothing about how or even if it intends to honour the decision the British people took in a referendum Parliament decided to hold. And people, particularly EU citizens who've made their home here, and UK citizens living in the EU, deserve clarity on these questions as soon as possible.
There is now great uncertainty about what will happen next. Most opposition parties want the government to suspend Article 50, which will then postpone the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union beyond the current date of March 29th. The Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has tabled a motion of non-confidence in the government, which will be voted on this Wednesday. This will trigger an early general election, but it is not clear whether Parliament will support that.
The result of tonight's vote is the greatest defeat for a government since the 1920s in this House. This is a catastrophic defeat for this government. After 2 years of failed negotiations, the House of Commons has delivered its verdict on her Brexit deal, and that verdict is absolutely decisive. I hear the words of the Prime Minister, but actions of her government of the past 2 years speak equally clearly. She is only attempting to reach out now to try to keep her failed process and deal alive after it's been so roundly rejected by Parliament on behalf of the people of this country. Labour has laid out our priorities consistently. No deal must be taken off the table. A permanent customs union must be secured, and people's rights and protections must be guaranteed so they do not fall behind.
Our correspondent in London, Pablo Navarrete, brings us more about what this means for the nation.
A short moment ago, it was announced that British Prime Minister Theresa May had lost a crucial vote on the Brexit deal between her government and the European Union in the British Parliament. The magnitude of the loss, 230 votes, was perhaps larger than expected by some, but it was clear that she did not have the support within her own party to win this. Now, this vote was delayed from December, where she, at the last minute, decided to pull it or postpone it, given that, again, it didn't seem that she had the votes to win. She claimed that she would try to win further concessions from the European Union, something that she was unsuccessful with. And now her credibility as leader, her government effectively is on the ropes. Now, the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, has announced that he will be putting in a motion of no confidence in the government tomorrow. And depending on how this plays out, it could lead to the fall of the Theresa May government. So this new vote has plunged the government into a renewed crisis. And a short moment ago, the Donald Tusk, the European Union president, gave a tweet indicating that Britons should perhaps think about cancelling Brexit altogether, which is, there is also a strong move, especially amongst Labour Party, Labour MPs and some Conservative MPs for what they call a people's referendum, something that the Labour leadership has not supported overtly, although there is a kind of more nuanced position that is put forward. So this will be tested now in the coming days. Labour will be expected to be a little bit clearer in what its position is now that Theresa May has lost the key vote on Brexit, and Theresa May said she will give a announcement tomorrow as well. So the expected loss by Theresa May has occurred. Her government is on the ropes, and we'll see if Theresa May makes it till the end of the week as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Moving on, a new migrant caravan has set off from Honduras, destined for the United States. The new group departed from the city of San Pedro Sula. Our correspondent Gila Silvestrucci tells us more.
More and more Honduran people are arriving here, at the border with Guatemala. Just moments ago, minors that were accompanied by only one of their parents were not allowed to cross the border. Others in the caravan have also reported that authorities are asking for passports, even though there is an agreement among Central American countries that says that only one personal document is required for minors to cross with their parents. Around 100 children are currently in this border area, waiting for the final resolution by migrant authorities.
And more than 500 Hondurans met in a bus station to begin their journey to the United States.
Entire families have once again decided to leave Honduras due to the crisis in the country.
There are simply no jobs. We do not have access to food every day. So that is why me and my wife took the decision of migrating. We cannot find a job here.
There is a lot of violence. Children are threatened by gangs to join them. We cannot go on like this.
Young people say there are no job opportunities, and violence also makes them choose to leave their homeland.
I worked for 1 week in order to collect money and leave the country.
Parents decided to travel with their children due to a lack of basic goods.
We don't have medicine in hospitals. There's nothing to treat my kids when they get sick. I want my son to have a good future. That's what I'm looking for.
People gathered at the bus station said no one organized this. Instead, they knew about the meeting thanks to social media. They also said they are willing to move forward until the end because they feel they have been deceived by the Honduran government.
Juan Orlando Hernandez lied to us when we voted for him. He said young people would have jobs, but that never happened. So that is why we are here all together, to live in the country.
As it happened with the first migrant caravan, it is expected that more people will join the group along the way until they reach the Guatemalan border. People in this caravan have not yet decided which way they will take to get out of the country. Although they assume the way is militarized, they say they are confident about reaching their destiny.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon has extended U.S. troops' presence at the border with Mexico until the end of September. The deployment was planned to end on the 31st of January, but an extension was reportedly approved by the Pentagon after a request made by the Department of National Security. Currently, there are over 2,000 troops stationed at the border. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. Small traders in Bolivia have taken to the streets to demand state action amid dispute over market spaces. Trade unionists are asking authorities to recognize spaces in markets and oust illegal vendors. Activist Milagro Sala has been sentenced to 13 years in prison by Argentinian authorities. Our correspondent Sabrina Roth from San Salvador de Jujuy brings you the details.
The court has sentenced social leader Milagro Sala to 13 years in prison, charged with criminal association, defrauding the state, and extortion. Former President Cristina Fernández Kirchner took to Twitter to criticize the persecution of the activist. Bolivian President Evo Morales also took to Twitter to show his solidarity with Sala. On his post, he said, "We show our solidarity with our sister Milagro Sala, who has been unfairly sentenced to 13 years in prison for fighting for the poor and indigenous people in her country. We hope that this decision will be reversed. We wish you great strength in these difficult moments." Sala was taken to the office of Judge Isidoro Cruz, where she was notified about a new preventive detention regarding the 4 lawsuits the activist is facing.
Argentina is dealing with a serious outbreak of the hantavirus in the southern province of Chubut. 10 people have died so far from the 28 confirmed cases. 80 others have been placed in quarantine. Hantavirus is a rare disease which can be life-threatening if not treated quickly. People catch it by breathing air infected by the urine, droppings, or saliva of mice and other infected rodents. Another femicide in Argentina has brought the total number of victims this year to 8. The 17-year-old was seized by a man last Saturday as she walked home from a night out with friends in the small town of Esperanza in the center of Argentina. The man later killed himself when the police arrived to question him. The young woman's body was found 300 meters from the nightclub she had been at. An autopsy showed she had been partially buried alive and died from asphyxia. She had not been raped. Feminist groups have gathered in Quito to defend the right to abortion. Ecuador's National Assembly is set to resume the debate on a controversial law to decriminalize abortion in the case of rape. Currently, Article 150 of the Penal Code prohibits abortion except when the mother's health is at risk and in cases of rape where the victim is mentally handicapped.
We have to take Ecuador's reality into account regarding sexual violence. Many victims are girls under 14 that end up becoming mothers. They are forced to have a pregnancy that prompts an unlimited number of issues, and it is actually a torture for them.
I am a father, I have a mother, I have sisters, and I have friends and nieces, and I don't want them to be put in risky situations, or to pay going to jail or with their lives, a mistake made by a man. I mean, not supporting women is like attacking all of us, because we all came from women. It is the minimum we can do.
The chief of the Commission Against Impunity, Ivan Velázquez, has offered to resign if Guatemala allows the body to remain in the country. In early January, President Jimmy Morales expelled the organization which was investigating him and members of his family. The decision was later overturned by the Constitutional Court. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has signed a decree to roll back a 2003 gun control law. The law sets strict conditions on gun ownership, as it prohibits permits that are allowed in other countries like the United States. Bolsonaro has also pledged to lower the age of gun ownership from 25 to 21, and to scrap a police requirement that asks for proof of why a weapon needs to be owned. Our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Brian Mir, has the details.
In Brasilia this morning, President Jair Bolsonaro issued a decree liberalizing gun ownership in Brazil. Whereas previously, the only people who could purchase guns for personal use were public security officials, and then only after they'd passed an examination and received personal authorization from a federal police agent. Now, any Brazilian citizen who lives in an area that had over 10 homicides per 100,000 residents in the previous year can purchase up to 4 guns for personal use. Now, this measure is wildly unpopular with the Brazilian public. A recent poll by Datafolha shows that 68% of the population opposes the measure because Brazil already has one of the world's highest murder rates. Last year, there were 62,000 murders in Brazil. But as the gun companies are big supporters of Bolsonaro and his PSL political party, they applauded the measure, and the share values of Taurus, which is the largest gun company in Brazil, dramatically increased with Bolsonaro's decree. Brian Mir, Telesur, São Paulo.
Thank you, Brian, for that report. Nicaragua joined the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, or ALBA, 12 years ago. This organization has helped in the fight against poverty and inequality.
The Nicaraguan Institute of Municipal Development reported that more than 12,000 houses were built in cooperation with the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America bloc, or ALBA. Also, 95% of houses in rural areas got electricity, 250 maternal centers were built, and more than 45,000 roads across the country.
Families have benefited by this cooperation program. This has directly impacted on the reduction of the prices of basic goods. The work of the ALBA is very important for the development of our people. It has changed our cities, municipalities, our neighborhoods.
Analyst Adolfo Pastrán says that this 12-year cooperation has been based in solidarity, helping Nicaragua fight poverty.
Left-wing parties have implemented several programs which have helped to improve life quality in different countries. However, right-wing parties that have received millions of dollars from the United States are still fighting against violence and drug trafficking. They are not improving the economy of their countries. So the fact that ALBA country members are successful shows how negative the United States' influence in the region is.
And this is something you can see on the streets. One example of this is Maria, who has lived in capital Managua for 10 years, selling bread, water, and other beverages. Now she has a house thanks to the ALBA cooperation program.
It is very good because the program helps the people who are in need. This program is helping poor people. We receive the benefits, not the rich people.
Authorities say that this program is helping fight inequality in Central America.
A Venezuelan scientist who is pregnant has joined an expedition in Antarctica. 6 months pregnant Inés Melendez has joined the homeward-bound expedition made out by 80 female scientists. Melendez says that being pregnant is not an obstacle. On the other hand, she says it's an inspiration to fight climate change. The expedition is said to boost women's leadership and visibility. After being a bachelor for a decade, an endangered Bolivian aquatic frog named Romeo has now a mate. Researchers managed to find the lovesick amphibian his very own Juliet. A blind date has been set up for this Valentine's Day for the couple. Now the race is on to boost the species numbers. If this doesn't work, researchers plan to resort to artificial insemination.
I put my hand in the water and started to search, and suddenly I grabbed a frog. I raised my hand and it wasn't a toad. I suddenly saw an orange belly, which is one of the main characteristics of the Thaumaturus uracare of Romeo's species. And so I looked and started to scream.
And a group of artists in Panama are painting a mural in a bid to tackle xenophobia. The mural will show Jesus, Mary, and 5 young people representing the 5 continents in a boat together. It will be unveiled at the upcoming visit of Pope Francis in the end of January. Time for a second break. More news in a minute. Welcome back. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has said the Israeli occupation is an obstacle to the development of the Middle East. Speaking at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Abbas also renewed his commitment to a two-state solution. Palestine is heading the Group of 77, a coalition of 134 developing nations. Thousands of people have taken part in several Spanish feminist mobilizations against a regional governmental pact with the far right. Protests took place in over 100 Spanish cities against the pact made by right-wing forces with far-right Vox Party to gain the Andalusian government against the Socialist Party. Organizers argued that women's rights might be compromised if the far right enters the government. Earlier we spoke to Consuelo Jansante to learn more about these demonstrations.
We will be there and we will be vigilant. We will not take one step back in the, defending our rights. We will not there be to watch, to see our rights negotiated by the parties that are going to participate in this government.
Business between Venezuela and Turkey is growing rapidly with new trade and education agreements. More in this report.
Relations between Venezuela and Turkey have evolved beyond diplomacy. President Nicolás Maduro and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan meet regularly to discuss closer collaboration in economic, educational, and commercial matters.
The trade volume with Venezuela has been increasing pretty much, while the main products imported and exported. Turkey exports mainly consumer products to Venezuela and imports from Venezuela precious stones, iron, steel products, and so on. So again, it's the natural resources which are forming the main opportunity of trade between the two countries. Also, the country has a high opportunity, it forms a high opportunity. It's a big market, and it's a really important market recently.
According to the Turkish government, gold imports are estimated to increase to a total of $900 million in the first 9 months of 2019.
3 years ago, this kind of relationship did not exist. Today, our commercial ties keep improving and developing. It's a long cooperation process, especially in trade and security. It is improving every day.
In 2018, cooperation in military, educational, and commercial matters was worth more than $1 billion.
The Southern Africa Development Community has called for an emergency meeting to discuss the disputed presidential election in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The news comes after a court in Kinshasa began hearing an appeal challenging the results announced last week. Opposition candidate Martin Fayulu challenged the result that gave victory to Felix Tshisekedi in the December elections. Supporters of the Esperance of Tunis are celebrating the football team's centenary. Red and golden colors fill the Tunis popular district of Bab Souka, where fans gather. The celebration also cheered for the crown the team got as the African champion a few days ago. And we come to the end of this news brief. This and many other stories you can find at our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.